Drake has built his entire identity as a rapper around consistently pulling in the highest numbers. However, even though his latest album, SSS for You, underperformed, achieving about half the sales of his recent albums in its first week, it still marked his 14th #1 album overall. This allowed Drake to maintain some semblance of confidence, trying to act like everything was fine after just 3 weeks of SSS for You being out. Yet, it's clear that his album is no longer sitting at the top of the charts like his earlier projects used to, when he was at his peak and more widely appreciated. Instead, the album has dropped to the point where it didn't even manage to sell 1,000 copies in a week. While it's true that streaming plays a huge role these days, remember that Kendrick Lamar's GNX is still moving thousands of copies even now, further highlighting the failure of Drake's album. His fall became undeniable when he lost the top spot on the charts not just to a new release, but to Kendrick Lamar's GNX in its 15th week. This loss has pushed Drake into a corner. Not only is he facing embarrassment, but is distancing himself from SSS for You and even admitting that it's one of the worst things he's ever done. Before we dive deeper into this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Drake's fans won't want you to hear this, considering how poorly things are going for him. Be sure to like the video so everyone can see how Drake isn't even defending the album his fans are desperately trying to convince themselves is good. Now, looking at SSS for You, it's sad to see how far Drake has fallen. The third week of his album's release has become so irrelevant that it's being outperformed by Kendrick Lamar's GNX, an album that's already a month old. Drake, OVO, and his supporters can't even point to Kendrick's Super Bowl performance as a reason for his success anymore, as we're well past that point. These albums are standing on their own merit now, and Kendrick is proving just how much stronger his influence is in the music world. When we step back and look at the bigger picture, it's clear that Kendrick Lamar has reshaped the future of hip-hop and the music industry itself. Not only does he have legendary songs on the charts, but his entire album is performing so well that even the tracks that weren't released as singles are breaking records. This is a testament to the level of artistry Kendrick has reached, something we've never quite seen before. In an industry where the biggest names, like Drake, have relied on every trick in the book to inflate their numbers and keep their albums charting, Kendrick's surprise 12-song album is still going strong, earning the #1 spot weeks after its release. Kendrick is redefining what longevity looks like in the streaming era, simply by creating an album with undeniable quality. Because of all the success Kendrick Lamar has been having with GNX, Drake has been in a full-on panic, especially since Kendrick's album is still outperforming SSS for You. All week, on his Little Plot Twist page, Drake has been sharing posts attempting to discredit Kendrick and his album, laughing at its performance compared to his own. Honestly, it's becoming pretty desperate, and frankly, it's almost comical at this point. One of the posts Drake shared was a video featuring a woman from Club Area 29, a place he frequently references in his music. Instead of confronting the reality of his situation and figuring out how to move forward as an artist, Drake shared this video of a dancer holding a dictionary, which seems to be a direct reference to a line from his song Gimme a Hug. In that song, he mocked Kendrick by saying that because Kendrick's music is so complex, fans would need to dance with dictionaries, essentially implying that Kendrick's music isn't fun or easy to enjoy like his own. But as much as Drake has tried to mock Kendrick and his fans for enjoying music with substance, his attempt has clearly backfired. Fans are still happily pulling out their dictionaries and enjoying GNX, which continues to outperform Drake's SSS for You. In fact, Kendrick's tracks, some of which are 12 to 15 weeks old, are still performing better than the 21 tracks Drake just released. Drake didn't stop there in trying to boost SSS for You. He also shared a video where a fan was encouraging everyone to stay on the side where Kendrick Lamar is making waves, praising Kendrick's ad-libs and peekaboo while poking fun at Drake's Nokia line. Again, Drake is trying to make SSS for You seem like it's something special, while also clowning Kendrick's fun moments in GNX. But if Drake truly understood hip-hop and the importance of fun, he'd realize that Kendrick's playful moments are just as entertaining and enjoyable as the deeper, more complex aspects of his music. Unsurprisingly, none of Drake's attempts to downplay Kendrick's success have worked. More than ever, Drake is realizing that he can no longer claim to be the undisputed numbers guy or put others down because he's untouchable. The reality is, Kendrick Lamar has surpassed him in every way, and Drake now has to face the fact that he's not in the position he once was. At this point, Drake has no choice but to accept that SSS for You has failed. As always, though, he's trying to avoid dealing with the truth and is making excuses for the album's poor performance. Drake and OVO are claiming that the album was suppressed and lacked proper support, arguments that seem like a way to explain why the numbers are so low. What's becoming clearer is that Drake set up SSS for You in a way that he could easily push it aside if it didn't perform as expected. And now that it hasn't, Drake will likely try to distance himself from it, knowing that much of the material feels lazy and lacks the quality he's delivered on previous projects. Drake is going to great lengths to protect his reputation and act as though everything is not as disastrous as it seems. When it comes to the failure of his latest album, it's clear that Drake set things up in such a way that, from a branding perspective, he hoped his fans would easily forget about this project. He likely thought they would just excuse its lackluster performance in an attempt to preserve his larger image. However, looking at how Drake released this album, we should have known something was off. It feels like he's playing some kind of game that he can bail on at any moment. First, let's talk about how this album is a collaboration with Party Next Door, a lesser-known artist compared to Drake's usual collaborations. Drake has a history of working with artists who elevate his brand, boosting their popularity to help both parties. But by teaming up with Party Next Door, it gave Drake the perfect excuse to blame the album's poor performance on Party's smaller fanbase. Additionally, this record is categorized as an R&B album, even though it doesn't sound much different from Drake's typical releases and includes a fair amount of rap. By marketing it as something outside of hip-hop, Drake can avoid competition in the rap genre, hoping to minimize any negative impact on his reputation if the album doesn't do well. From the album's lackluster performance, it's clear that Drake was already prepared to abandon it if it flopped. This is why he's so quick to distance himself from it, something we've never seen from him before. It's shocking that for the first time in his career, he's released an album without any real music videos or major promotional efforts, retreating from the public eye as much as possible. What we're witnessing now is Drake facing a reality he's never had to deal with. The thrill of being on top and the chart-topping numbers he's relied on to fuel his career are no longer motivating him. The disappointing sales, combined with Kendrick Lamar's GNX outperforming his album, have shaken Drake to the core. He's no longer sure of how to navigate as an artist when the thing that once drove him, being the best on the charts, has failed him. At this point, Drake's lack of creativity, skill, and overall enthusiasm is evident. He's seemingly stepping back from everything. His future in the music scene is uncertain, and it's hard to see how any of his upcoming albums will be viewed positively, given how far he's fallen from the top. This failure with SSS for You marks a major turning point for him, as it represents a complete shift from what he once stood for, and not in a good way. Drake is clearly disappointed with the outcome of this album, but it's not necessarily because the music is worse than what he's done before. Instead, it's the lack of success and being overshadowed by Kendrick Lamar that has forced him to step back and rethink his strategy. Even with all the advantages he once had, like a fresh new release, Drake is now left to figure out how to come back from this setback. Despite all his efforts, Drake has still lost, and things have never looked worse for him. What's clearer now than ever is that we are witnessing a new era in hip-hop. Kendrick Lamar's dominance has reached a point where Drake is now distancing himself from his own album, clearly embarrassed by its performance in comparison to Kendrick's. The long-term effects of this situation go beyond just the rivalry between the two. This could very well be a bigger victory for Kendrick than even the rap beef itself. With Drake's failure now undeniable, constantly trailing behind Kendrick, he's left without the key elements he needs to succeed as an artist. This marks a significant turning point for hip-hop, and it's never been in a better position. So, with all of that said, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Kendrick's ability to outlast Drake even after GNX has been out for so long? What does this say about both of their careers and where they stand in the industry right now? Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Also, if you want to see how things are getting even worse for Drake, especially after Kendrick Lamar's words about Drake's failed attempt to rig the game and fake influence. Check out the suggested video.